Well, hello there, it's me. I still exist. Explanation for why I was gone will be at the end of the video. We're jumping right into the topic and talk about that later. And the topic of today is warding. Now, I've done a video on warding quite a while ago. You may remember this was with Emeilzy and it was in depth and he explained all the tricks that you can do with wards, where you can place them, how you can place them the most strategical way and whatnot. But then going back into my games, especially recently, I realized, hell, nobody knows how to ward at all. And I was wondering why that is so. You would think that that kind of information, even though not everyone obviously sees the video, kind of spreads across the community. Which made me then realize that the issue may lie a little bit deeper. Obviously there are those people who never inform themselves, but there seem to be some misconceptions on wards in general and what you should do when your team doesn't ward and whatnot. So I figured I'm gonna approach this differently. This is gonna be the most absolute basic, bare bones, whatever you want to call it, guide for warding. This is warding for dummies. This is if you have no idea about warding, you are in a situation where no one else wards, or maybe one other person that you're playing with, and that's it. And I want to look at this in the most simple way and make clear what you should definitely do in terms of warding, when there's no room to look for those more complex strategies for warding, but rather you just need to have some vision on the map. Let's begin with the ward placement. There are 6 ward spots on the map that you should prioritize over any other. We'll call them the idiot-proof wards here because you really can't make much of a mistake with this one. You can put them into these places and they will help you. There's one that is depending on the time and that's it. So 5 of these can always be placed. And which one of those you place is a bit depending on the game situation. So which wards are these? The 2 most absolutely essential wards on the map are the 2 towards your own base in the mid lane next to the harpy camps. Like underneath the harpy camps looking on the map. These 2 wards are extremely crucial for any sort of map awareness. They will show you any rotation towards middle lane, anyone coming in, anyone rotating towards your camps from that area trying to steal something, and any pressure that could be put onto middle lane is usually coming from these spots, unless the enemy obviously goes through middle lane itself or jumps over a wall in another area before that right into the middle lane. But odds are the enemy will have to go through these wards. And these wards should be placed at pretty much all times, maybe with the exception of very, very early game and very late game. Why are these wards so important? Because they affect at least 3 people. You will have the jungler, the support, and obviously the mid laner constantly being around this area, rotating around there, and as such you will have to protect them all in some way, and with one ward protecting 3 people at a regular basis is very, very cost efficient. The ones toward the side of the map are usually more to protect a specific player, so often is that specific player himself buying that ward. Obviously there are exceptions, support, blah blah blah, but we're keeping this simple, so the ones you want are the 2 in mid lane towards your own base, covering the entrance to the other objectives, as well as the entrances to your jungle, at least one half of them. Logically, these wards are typically the ones that you want to place if you're mid, support, or jungle as well. If you're solo or ADC and you rotate towards middle a fair bit, you can also place those wards, but you can be a bit egoistical here and put one ward towards middle, but then the other one towards your lane, because really you don't have to cover the whole middle for your team and rotate it across the map to put those wards down all the time. The next 2 wards are also around mid lane, but they are towards the enemy base, so up from you. These wards are able to cover the enemy rotations a little bit better if the enemy is playing less aggressive and more farming around the own jungle and whatnot. And also this allows you to play a little more aggressive, knowing where the enemy is positioned. And also, we'll talk about sentries in a bit, that can obviously reveal enemy wards more often when they are placing defensive wards. So these kind of fulfill the similar purpose as the first ones, just a more aggressive option of them. If you have 2 of the more aggressive wards placed, then the defensive wards become a little less necessary because you can kind of see rotations from there. But keep in mind that the enemies can also come through the Gold Fury Fire Giant, and if they rotate to the back path, so to speak, towards your base, then they will be able to hit you if you don't have wards there still. So these are the wards I would place if you have at least one friend who will help you warding, so you can cover most of the mid area most of the time and have those safety measures against rotations and that extra vision around both 3 of the enemies as well as 3 of your own. So protecting yourself and having the most ideal cost efficiency in terms of aggression too. The last 2 wards are objective wards. One significant advantage we have here, one of these doesn't have to be bought and it doesn't restrict your ward limit, and that's the Oracle Harpies at the Gold Fury. You want to have vision on the Gold Fury at pretty much all times, especially in earlier stages of the game, but even in late game this can be snuck away under your eyes if you don't have wards there. So I would be very cautious to have wards there at most times. If you don't expect the enemy to do that very early because their comp doesn't allow for it, then you can skip out on the wards a little bit. But on your early rotations you should already consider getting wards there. Unless you're getting the Oracle Harpies, which is obviously the better option, because not only do you get a ward that can't be cleared, but you also don't pay for it. So if you have anyone on your team who can help you with that, you should make sure to get these cleared at all times. Pretty much anyone except the solo laner can go there to help you clear, or you can be anyone but the solo laner and clear them. So it's not that hard to get them, and they're very beneficial in terms of vision for your whole team. The other objective that you want to ward is the one that spawns a little bit later, 10 minutes in, and that's the Fire Giant. The Fire Giant not only gives you a vision of the Fire Giant if you put the ward right, but also of the Puddle Demon. So this is a very crucial late game or mid game even objective that you don't want to ignore at any point, and you want to have vision there. If you're at that stage of the game and you're still the only one warding, I would actually take away one of the mid lane wards because they won't be as necessary anymore, and instead place one at fire just so you have some vision for that objective to know what's going on. Again, these are just the super essential wards. Any more complex ward concepts are covered in the video I made with Ambiance. I will link that at the end of the video. But before we get there, we have some more things to cover. First of all, when do I buy wards? On every single back if you can. Before the game starts, you don't necessarily need to buy wards, especially not on the lower levels of play, because really that strategical early game warding is something that you'll rarely see in the current meta, where most of the time people are just doing their own camps. But there are situations where you want to get an early ward if you have like a Thanatos on the enemy team that you expect to play aggressive. If the meta shifts again, which can always happen, you want to have some aggressive or defensive wards depending on who you are really. But after that, ideally buy wards and place wards whenever you're back, unless you just died right after coming back from base. The wards will last 3 minutes, so by the time you're back you usually have the next wards ready to place them, and they will help you a great deal. You should always look to, as Emilio said, get your item, but also factor in enough for 1 sentry ward and 1 normal ward. If you have that gold covered, that extra gold on top of the item you're getting, you will always be able to get wards, and you will be a lot more efficient in terms of your warding, which should really help your game overall. If you ended up not placing a ward and you happen to have to go back to base and you still have that little extra gold that you need for an item, then fair enough, sell the ward and get the full item that you may need. But in most situations it will be very beneficial to have that ward. On to the topic of sentry wards versus normal wards. Now sentry wards cost 120 gold instead of the normal 50, so they're a fair bit more expensive, but they reveal enemy wards. And I do think there's a lot of value in this. This is due to the fact that you're able to reveal not only the enemies coming at a specific spot, but also know about the enemy's map awareness. You know exactly what they can see, and you can basically either bait them that way, or you can take away their vision by clearing the ward. And through clearing the ward, you also get gold in return. Obviously, it's a little extra gold, but that little bit of extra gold is not that much and pays off if they place 1 normal ward in. The loss is 20 gold, and that's still fine because the enemy just made a 50 gold loss at the same time, so you're fine, you're already benefiting from that. Especially when you know where the enemy is placing normal wards, which you can scout out a little bit, then you can easily use that to clear, and it will not only give you advantage in terms of knowing what the enemies are doing, but also increase your gank potential. If you're clearing out enemy wards, the enemy will not know that you're coming, which is especially good for the jungler, and if you put wards, sentry wards into mid lane towards the more aggressive position, then you will often be able to leave the enemy in a fog about what's happening around there, and you can get easy kills, easy picks from that position. Sentry wards should also be used on the core objectives, especially on Fire Giant, because otherwise the enemy will just clear out your normal ward or the sentry ward themselves. Because obviously they will know about that, they will know that you put a ward there, and they will try to counter it if they have any ward knowledge at all. If the two very basic spots on the map are covered that I talked about with normal or sentry wards, then I think you should consider getting sentry wards at that point. If they're not covered and you don't have enough gold to get both and you have to decide between 2 normals and a sentry, then possibly go for the 2 normals, but usually you have at least one person warding along with you, and then you can opt for sentries because they just benefit you more as a whole. Now, who places wards? Everyone. If you're not placing wards, you're doing it wrong. If you're playing ADC or solo, you can get away with less wards because they typically just ward towards their lane, and you can get away with just 1 ward per back basically, or hope that your support will help you out a little bit. But in most situations you still want to have that ward just to be safe, whereas in mid, everyone has multiple wards up all the time in a good scenario. So jungle, support, and mid, they all need to spend a decent amount of gold on wards. If one of them is a little less likely to spend as much gold on them as the mid because they kind of have to invest more into their build, at the same time you still should have those wards up. So really, whoever you are, just ward. It's just much simpler that way, and it helps you definitely way more than complaining about your teammates not buying wards for you, which they won't. And that covers the absolute bare essentials for warding. I would like to go into way more detail. I actually have to hold myself back, but I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. If you want to see more details, click the link up above for the video with Emilzy, where there's all the details on this topic in the world. Now, for those who were wondering where I've been super busy. I had to sort out various things for a trip I'm doing soon and all that kind of stuff surrounding that. Then when I wanted to make videos again, I got sick. And then when I felt better again, my washing machine broke and it leaked all over the kitchen. And when I wanted to repair that, my sink broke as well. If you ever seen rusty metal that breaks apart, that's some weird shit. And now that's fixed, and now I still need to fix my washing machine and whatnot. But that's been taking up a ton of time, so apologies for not making any videos at all. I was just super busy with life, and I'm hopefully fully back now. I'm planning to make a lot of videos and the next days. I have a lot of ideas. I came back with a lot more energy as well. I had a bit of a break this way, even though it wasn't really a break, but it was still nice. And now I'm back. And with that, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope to see you all for the next one tomorrow, or maybe even later today, depending on when I release this. Also, if you enjoyed this content, you want to see more like this, feel free to click that sub button and maybe the bell. It really helps me out. DukeSloth, out.